I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. What happens when the women who helped build Microsoft finally get their story told? In her new book, The Women of Microsoft, Miri Rodriguez, senior storyteller at Microsoft, CEO of Empressa.ai, and award-winning author, spotlights the pioneers who shaped both the company and the future of tech. Along the way, she shares powerful insights on storytelling, leadership, and how empathy and purpose can transform the way we work. My interview with Miri Rodriguez is coming right up. But first, quick question. How confident are you that your content actually connects in every market? If you're guessing, it might be time to check out Phrase. Phrase is the industry-leading AI localization platform that helps you deliver content in multiple languages without losing your tone, your message, or your mind. It automates the manual work, slashes review time, and gives you real data on what's working where. Brands like Uber and Zendesk trust Phrase to scale their content across the globe and get it right every time. If you're serious about reaching more people and driving better results internationally, head over to phrase.com/MPN and take a look. That's phrase.com/MPN.
Are you tired of juggling multiple software tools to manage your agency? Say hello to Deltek Workbook, the ultimate solution for marketing and communication agencies. With Workbook, you can streamline your projects, resources, and finances all in one place. Imagine real-time dashboards and reports giving you full visibility into your projects, people, and financials. Plan your team's capacity weeks in advance to avoid bottlenecks while staying on budget to maximize project margins. Plus, Workbook works perfectly for both agencies and in-house marketing teams looking to boost efficiency and profitability. And here's the best part. At PCI, we're a certified Deltek partner and reseller offering expert implementation, integrations, and ongoing support to ensure your success. Want to see how Deltek Workbook can transform your operations? For a free consultation, visit pci.us/podcast today. That's pci.us/podcast.
Miri Rodriguez, welcome back to On Brand.
I absolutely love your podcast. You know that, and I just love to be back. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me. It's exciting.
I am excited to chat with you. So last time we talked about storytelling at Microsoft, but in the time since we last spoke, you've been working on an exciting new project, this book, The Women of Microsoft. I wonder if you'd talk about how this came about and tell us a bit about it.
Absolutely. It was not my idea. It was actually a woman in Poland who is at Microsoft. She reached out to me. A lot of women do this. They reach out to me for a personal brand or brand storytelling guidelines and coaching. And she's like, hey, I'm trying to write this book. And it was a great idea. It's in celebration of Microsoft's 50th anniversary that just happened in April. And this was 2 years ago. So by the time we were done with the call, she had invited me to co-write. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that right now. It's just like so many things happening in life. But I have to be honest, her passion for this project just illuminated the screen for me. And it did exactly what the book does. It brings women across timelines, time zones, age groups, across the organization together through technology. And I would have never met her otherwise. And today we are very close friends to this project. I couldn't say no because her mission around this, which is my mission in life, and it aligned perfectly, is to ensure women's voices are heard and included in the narratives of history. And we had an opportunity to do that. And if people 50 years from now, when I don't know if Google will still exist, but if they Google Microsoft anniversary, they will find our book and the women who've been honored through it. And in general, the women at Microsoft, not just the stories. So that was the mission. And I was like, hell yes, let's go. Let's do this.
That's awesome. And I love the timing of it, like you mentioned, too, with the anniversary and certainly honoring the company and making sure that you're including everyone's stories in that history, too. But to that end, I would imagine it would be a little challenging deciding which stories to include. What was that process like?
I'll say not deciding, because we kind of threw it out on the wind and said the stories that will be included are the ones that are going to be included. People will sign up. So we made an open call on LinkedIn on Women's Day that same year, and we prepped it. And I have a big network on LinkedIn, so we just said, hey, if you want to be part of this project, hit us up. And women did. We also her name is Izzy. She had an idea of some specific women she wanted to include for specific reasons. So it was really her, the ones that we reached out to, she reached out to, but the rest were really women that joined the project. And I have to tell a secret here. This is the first time I share this. At the end of the book, we only had 48 stories. So by the time we were ready to submit the manuscript, we were aiming at 50, because we wanted to do 50 women for the 50th anniversary. We had 48. And we're like, well, in essence, if we add you as the co-author and me as the co-author, there's 50. But just like the universe works, I mean, weeks before we were done, we had 2 women reach out and be like, please, can I be a part of this? I just missed that announcement, and I know you're about to submit the manuscript. And this was a year later. And we included those 2 very specific stories. So the stories that are there, I'd like to say it's magically driven by the universe. We didn't really pick them. They picked us.
So, what was one of the most surprising or moving stories that you uncovered along the way?
Yeah, we went about it a certain ways. When women signed up, we asked them to either write their own stories, and then I would edit them. So I did the entire editing, which was a new challenge for me. I had never edited. I shouldn't say edited. I had never weaved in people's stories with my story. It became a bigger narrative. I had never done that before. So it was really fun and challenging for sure. But, some of them were actual interviews. We allowed them, we said, if you want to be interviewed, we'd interview you. If you want to write your story, you can write it. So we went different ways. And the one story that really captivates me is this woman who tells the story. She's in the middle of the war in Ukraine. And she is working at Microsoft. She is a mother. She talks about having to teach her children as she takes them to school before work. There's all kinds of, like, when you leave your house in the middle of a war to take your children to school, you may not see them. It's like there's a whole different idea about how you're living your everyday life that is not every day in these circumstances. And she speaks about her resilience, and she says, and I'm not going to steal her thunder. I want people to read the book. But one thing that she says is, like, people have asked me, why haven't I left? If for my family or for my children. And she says, this is my country. This is where I belong. And it's, to me, very important to be here. I believe that this is going to resolve, but I don't want to leave. And so it's just a really incredible, it was very captivating for me to hear her story and think, my gosh, we're all living this life and we think it's so normal. And then somebody's waking up every day in these circumstances of sirens and, and bunkers and living that every day, every reality in our world. And we tend to forget that there's, those realities are happening simultaneous to us.
So Microsoft's been home to innovation at massive scale in that 50-year history. How have women been central to that story in ways that the public might not be aware of?
Oh, man, this is the best question you've ever asked me. I love it. I could be here all day. Listen, the reality is, and we did make a point that in the book, Microsoft has gone through and has led the 4 major milestones in technology throughout the 5 decades that we've been around. And in every one of them, women have been a part of not just the technology, marketing or sales or the support systems of the technology. They've been at it. They've been building. They've been in the boardrooms and in the tech rooms and in the bathrooms crying. And so in all the rooms, we've been in all the rooms. And one of the things that was really important to us was to capture those stories that are not always pretty. We didn't just sugarcoat everything. We're talking about real stories of, women who were trailblazing in rooms where they were the only women. And they had to really, stand up for themselves. They had a seat at the table. That didn't mean that they were actually contributing immediately. I mean, there's so many layers of these things going on. Let's not forget that this is, Microsoft is an incredibly innovative company in tech, but it's still tech, which is still male dominated as an industry. So there's that. And we can't, they can coexist, and they do coexist. It's a great company and a platform for women, yet there's a lot of limitations that still exist. And there's pockets of, the biases that we talk about in inclusion that doesn't happen even though we're supposed to have it. So all of that is really part of why we wanted to write the book and remind people that these women have been very much a part of these milestones in tech and at Microsoft.
So, speaking of, you mentioned the tears along the way. The book shares both highs and lows, joys, challenges. How'd you balance celebrating success with telling some of the harder, more complicated truths?
Yeah, I just think it's there's no balance more than the integrity that life is like that. You can wake up and have a really bad day and a good day in the same day, and that is the navigation of life. We can't. It's not all in. It's all encompassing, and they're all both truths. And I think that's again part of it. I had a woman on LinkedIn. We launched yesterday, and so we've had a great reception of the book, especially on LinkedIn. And I had a woman send a message just saying, "Hey, I hope that you're telling not only the great stories, but also the other stories that happen." And I said, "You won't be disappointed." You know what I mean? We didn't shy away from that because those are truths and they're okay. In the end, you will see how grateful every woman is, each of us are, to be in a company that has, every one of us can tell you Microsoft has changed our lives in one way or another, not just as a company, but as an innovation and as a platform for women. And so I think that you take it all with what it's worth. You have the innovation and you have the platform, and you also have the pockets of bad days and bad managers and biases that still exist, but you're not going to get rid of that anywhere. I mean, it's still happening around the world. It's still happening. It's very much alive in 2025. So we encompass it all, and we live it all, and we experience it all, and we enjoy it.
So, to that reader's point, what are some of the biggest takeaways for women navigating the industry right now?
Yeah. Well, I'll say right now, the industry has extremely changed since we wrote the book. We have had layoffs, right? And massive layoffs in tech. So now we're speaking in a different tone. And I know people are going to be asking that question. This is why I bring it up before they ask. What is that impact? And Microsoft is empowering women, yet it's letting a lot of women go in these massive layoffs. And we know through the stats and the research that when women are laid off, it takes them a lot longer than men to get back into the workforce. They have less opportunities to get rehired. It's a bigger gap that exorberates our experience in the workforce, which is unfortunate. It is just, unfortunate. However, the book and what we want to really highlight here for women and for readers is that those stories are meant for everyone to know and understand not only what we're doing, but the practical lessons that anybody can learn from that. We want them to be not just stories and be like, woe is me or yay is me. It's more like, this is what I went through, and here's what I learned from that. In every chapter, which is what I love about every chapter, you have this little nugget at the end that says, inspiration for your journey. And it's just this really just feng shui moment of like, if you take nothing away, take this one thing, and this applies to everything, no matter where the company's at, no matter where the layoffs are at. You can take these very, big life lessons, and they're quintessential. They don't move. They're value driven, and they're going to be applicable to every sector, every woman, every person, really. But especially for women, we're talking a lot about confidence, being confident, being resilient, what that takes, what that means. There's a story specifically there's a chapter dedicated to getting your promotion because some women didn't. And there's a story about a woman who did not get her promotion, and it took her years. And then she's like, the hell with this. And then she took her own approach. I won't tell you what the story was, but really powerful because that happens a lot. A lot of women wait for that promotion a lot of years. And so we are telling stories not to just say, oh, this happens. Oh shit, this sucks. It's more of like, this happens. It's real. And here's how somebody solved it. We also, on the counterpart of that, is a woman who got an immediate promotion, and then she's on the verge of burning out because she took on a lot. right? And she wasn't prepared. And so what is the cost of a promotion? Are you ready for that? Especially because women are still in 2025, they're doing 65% more work, domestic work than men, even though they both work. So if you have a partner and it's a woman and a man, both go to work 8 hours, 8-ish hours, both come home, the woman is doing 65% more work. So we're exhausted, and so we got to talk about that. Those are real things. Don't burn out.
On Brand will be right back after this.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Now, back to the show. You were talking about, women, but everyone. And, what do you think are some of the lessons that can be relevant for allies and leaders who want to create more inclusive workplaces?
I love that. And that's a question that even today, again, when we're talking about DEI, inclusivity, diversity, inclusion, equity, we know very well that we are in a world where that is becoming almost a dirty word to talk about. Is it a checkbox exercise? I mean, it's just, it's ugly. It's ugly. So we're in an ugly space right now with this inclusion thing. I will tell you, and we do speak about this in the book, the fallout of that and the impact of that, not only to women, but to society at large. If and when companies decide to scale back their programs or just, not acknowledge anymore the work. Microsoft has been and continues to do the work internally. And I love that. And this is one of the reasons I am still there myself. If I wasn't, if I didn't align to the mission and if it wasn't immediately tied to impact to me, I probably absolutely wouldn't be there. So when we think about those lessons that women are, the themes that the book really highlights with this in mind, I think it would say there's three things. There's compassion, there's empathy, and there is inclusion. And so the compassion, really, women are anchoring themselves, thinking about not only being compassionate to themselves and their stories, but to tech, to the industry at large, to people that come in contact with the tech. If we have compassion on it, if we look at it and go, there's still opportunity, there's a lot of opportunity to not just raise our hand or show up at the table, but really start leading in this space, especially now in the era of AI, which I believe it's a great equalizer. We can move ourselves away from, we meaning women, from just being happy to be at the table and raising our hand and saying, no, I'm not raising my hand. I'm speaking with conviction. I'm speaking with my professionalism, and I have something to say and make sure that is added and built in, not bolt on. And that doesn't look like the compassion people are used to. It's like, oh, I'm being compassionate. No, compassionate, there's an action to compassion and saying, if I don't do this right now, 50 years from now, this will be exacerbating the problem. It'll remain that women are not included in the technology, and not because we don't want to be. We are already at the table. So are we at the table? Sure. Now, what do we do once we're at the table? And I think that's where we're going with that. Empathy is the other part of that. And it's empathy towards ourselves. And I love a woman talking about biases, and she talks about the bias monster being the system, yourself being biased to yourself. And I was like, wow, I never thought of that. So it was so, I was like, that's so true. We can be biased with ourselves. I can come in already with my own biases, limiting myself in a space that nobody else is limiting me. So there's a little bit of taking that responsibility on our own and saying, we can sit here and, bitch about the system the entire day, or we can lead and we can just, begin to, as I've told you that before, I think we're the Rosa Parks of the digital age. We can get up and sit in front of that bus and lead a little bit. And then the last one, of course, is inclusion, which is taking that leap and including yourself with compassion, with empathy, but also with authority. We are here. We are not going anywhere.
I think that's so important, and I love that perspective. In looking back at the history and in so much of your work about showing up, looking ahead, do you see parallels in the women who helped build Microsoft and the next generation of women leaders coming up now?
Yeah. So I decided to call us the she. The women of Microsoft are called the she, and I introduced the she, and can you be used collectively, the she as the women of Microsoft, or the she as myself, or in third person, I'm the she as well. And one of the things that I loved about the she is when I introduced Andrea Lewis, the fifth employee at Microsoft in the first chapter, and I take us back to that moment when I'm alluding to this moment, and she's talking to her mom and her friends and her sisters and going, I've been invited to join a tech startup. It's a little wonky. I don't know. It's 5 people. I'm the only woman. And there's audacity there. I don't know how to pronounce that. There's courage there that she's taking a big, bold step. And so throughout the book, I compare coding with confidence and then the code of confidence. And I say, for those women who code, it's kind of straightforward. You know how to, there's a coding environment, you set it up, this is what it looks like. But when it comes to confidence and the code of confidence, we haven't been taught it. I don't know that somebody has written it. And so we take the book, and the book kind of takes you through this writing of a code of confidence. And that is ultimately the theme around, no matter what happens, us as women, the she and the she who's coming, I'm calling ourselves the she mothers and the she babies that are coming along, and the next generations can actually take this code of confidence and show up with confidence externally and internally wherever they go. So that's really where we're going with that.
I love that. And I love the idea of she. I feel like I saw that in your maybe LinkedIn header for the book. Yeah.
Meet the she is what I'm saying.
Meet
Yes.
the she. So I also wanted to catch up with you on your other, you are juggling so very much, writing a book, and like you said, writing and editing, very different
different
things.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
But you're also the CEO of Empressa.ai, which is focused on the future of work for women, especially in this world where AI is shaping and reshaping everything. I wondered if you could share a bit more about how that work has been unfolding since last we spoke.
I feel like I'm a mom of 2 under 2. I have a book that's a baby, and I have an Empressa that's a baby. And I say this with conviction because I did have physically 2 boys, 2 under 2. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not just BSing about it. So I think at this stage in my life, it's like, it's the same thing. It's a new era for me with 2 under 2s. So yeah, Empressa is in the book talks about it. We, for the last 50 years, we've struggled. We've made our way through. We've got our seats on the table. We've gotten a promotion. We fought for the promotion. We didn't get the promotion, all the things that happened to us. And then what does the 50 next years look like? We are positioned well, if we choose to, and really I put this responsibility on us women. We are well positioned to make AI our equalizer. There's, for example, a new role called Chief AI Officer. Men are applying to it. Women are not. But it's just a new job for everybody. It's just a new job for a man as it is for a woman. Why are women not applying? So there's a lot there that I am encouraging women to take a look at, and I am modeling this through Empressa, and I'm modeling it at Empressa. Empressa is a place where women will be skilled up in AI, will use it as a playground, as a sandbox to learn AI. And I'm going to say this, I love us as women, and I love our skepticism. We kind of have to show up to the world as skeptics because we are prey in the world, and that's okay. That's just a lot that we have. We can't just, that's where we are. However, we can't allow that fear to paralyze us. And it is paralyzing us. Research shows that we are significantly adopting AI way slower than men are. And then we are contributing to that gap because if men are adopting and learning and doing, hands-on, they have more chances to get that job that requires an AI component to it. So Empressa really is here to deliver something to women that addresses all those concerns. We are going through so much iteration with all our women who are helping us shape the AI. I'm really excited, Nick, because this is not something that's just an idea or product. It is a mission-driven approach that when this comes out, and hopefully in September, when this comes out to market and it launches, I will be able to say, the women will be able to say, this is all the things that we want it to be. We have gone and we've iterated and we've built it with every woman in mind. Everything that we've thought about is so research based. So it's just exciting that, and this is what I'm telling women, if it's not working for you, build it. Build the AI. Everybody, it's brand new to everybody. Oh, I don't know how to build. Nobody knows how to build. We're all learning together. So go build. Everybody's building. Just go build. So we're building, and it's for women. It's by women, and we're very excited.
I love it. Well, before I can ask you for the brand that's made you smile, I have to share my own smile in that as you are traveling the world. I'm here in the afternoon in Iowa, and you're in gorgeous Spain. But for our video viewers, they will have noticed that the sun has begun to set in this conversation. I know you did. You did, in fairness, warn me, and I said I can't imagine that in
a half hour.
In a half hour, it's gonna. Well, the joke is on me. But I also want to ask you, with your global perspective, what does that, as you travel the world telling stories, meeting leaders, how does that perspective shape the way that you see women in tech?
Oh my gosh, it infuses everything. It infuses my work in every single aspect. When I travel, I really do want to immerse myself in the culture. It is very important to me to eat the local food and go to the local places and enjoy the local scene. I want to live like they live so that I can understand why and how different it is from my way of living, and how similar it can be in some ways. And I find it fascinating because every single time I'm immersed in any culture, there are so many similar stories in the human story, in the humankind story. There are so many things that connect us as the human race. And I love that we're brothers and sisters. And so that reminder is always so beautiful. I walk around and there's a mom taking her kid to school and doing the same thing that somebody's doing in Miami, and I'm like, oh, it's the same thing. It's the same routine. And we're all getting up and taking our kids to school. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And also there's a lot of differences in the way that the people do things. Here in Spain, I don't know if people are familiar, but like life is just starting. The sun's gonna set. It's I don't know what's the local time. I don't have the local time. It's almost 9:30 my local time. And the sunsets. It's 10 o'clock here, summertime, and then life starts at like 11. People start having dinner at 11. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have heartburn. You know what I mean? It's 3 o'clock and people are walking the streets like it's like 2 p.m. and I'm like, do you people sleep? And so, but it's fun because you also get to see just life, how people live life, and that to me is what I think about when I think about a book or my work in Empressa or my work at Microsoft. Reminding ourselves that there's opportunity always in every one of our business story, to embed those very touches of humanity that we can all attain to. We've all been scared at one point. We've all been hungry. We've all been in love. And those are the things that are quintessentially human, globally human. And so if we allude to those touches and we can tug at those moments, then we can connect, even though culturally we may not be the same. And that's where I am always reminded. It's nice to talk about it in theory. You are also a storyteller and a wonderful one at that, so that I'm preaching to the choir. But when you actually do it, when you actually put that in action in your everyday, in your cultural embeddedness, it's magic. It's beautiful, so I love it. It really, I don't think that my work would be as rich as it is today if I didn't have an opportunity to really travel the world and meet people in their spaces. It just opens up an entire universe of stories. So,
well, before the sun completely sets on us, I have to ask you, Miri, for a brand that has made you smile recently.
Okay, so this is going to be a very Spaniard thing because typically it would be American because I'm in America, living in America and doing some American brand things. But and this is actually, there's a story behind this, of course. So the brand is Mephisto. I don't know if you know the brand. I think it's an Italian brand, but it's sold very much all over Europe. Mephisto is a shoe brand.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the story, and the reason I'm really liking the brand, is because so the story starts with my dad. When he used to travel a lot as well. I was, I don't know, 15. He travels and brings me a pair of Mephistos, and these are like high end Italian shoes. And at that point, I'm like, ew, like that is not, I will never wear this. Ew, dad, like. And I said no, right? I had no idea this is like, a really expensive pair of shoes. I absolutely said no. My aunt, who was there, she's like, "I'll take them." She wasn't stupid. She was like, "I'll take this." She took the shoes. They're like these walking shoes. And I felt bad as a teenager. I was being a bratty teenager, and I was like, man, I told my dad no, and he never bought me shoes again. He was probably very burnt from that. Anyways, I am walking the streets of Spain, and I look at this window thing, and I enter, and I like this pair of shoes for walking shoes. And I enter, and I sit down, and there's these women are so beautiful. They walk here in pairs. It's little two older women. They dress up really nice, and they just have coffee and beer. They drink a lot of beer. And I'm like, they're like 85. I'm like, good for them, And they're walking in pairs. So they're in the store, and they're having a conversation about the queen and the king of Spain. And I'm like, hello, I need to buy my shoes, and they couldn't care less. I mean, they're there for a half hour, and I'm thinking, oh, this is the culture. Like, you just go to the shoe store and you chill. I'm just gonna chill. So I sit and I chill, and finally the guy comes to me, and I'm like, hey, I'm like, I really love those shoes. I didn't know they were Mephistos at that point. I'm like, I really love these shoes. And he goes, okay. I'm like, but I would love to see if there's any other colors. And he's like, well, they come from, so they're not Italian, they're probably French. They're French. He goes, I got to get them from France. It's going to take me a couple of weeks, but tell me what colors do you want? So I'm like, oh, you're asking me how many colors. So now I'm going to town. I'm like, I want pink, and I want I'm having the whole rainbow. And he's like, well, I'm going to have to call the manufacturer and find out. Long story short, the guy gives me his phone number. It's very, it gives me a handwritten receipt with a promise that he's going to find me colors that he's going to ask the manufacturer. And now I have 3 colors that they made. He's like, and they're going to try to add to your color palette more colors. So it was a really incredible, like very personal, white glove experience by Mephisto. And they do that today, and they've been around for a long time. And I was like, wow, it feels like I'm not, it's not like an Amazon buy. It was a very personal, and I loved it. So again, personal treatment still wins. At the end of the day, a brand that's willing to, by paper trail, meet your customer demands, it's going to win. So now I'm a fan. I'm Mephisto all the way.
That is great. And a story that got us there. Yes. So where can folks go, Miri, to learn more about who you are and what you do?
Yes, so mirirod.com, mirirod.com. There you find me and everything around me. You can also find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram. At Miri Rod is my handle on social media. And I do promise, and I say this every time I come on a podcast, I do take time to respond to people. So if you have a question, if I didn't answer something, if you have anything you want to talk about, I do have assistants, but I pride myself in saying I answer every question personally because it's that important to me. So
awesome. Well, we will link up to all of that in our show notes, which folks can find at
Before I disappear into the sunset.
Before you disappear, which folks can find at onbrandpodcast.com. Miri Rodriguez, thanks for joining us once again.
Thank you. The sun's setting behind us. How romantic. Thank you for making it a moonlight moment for me. Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate you always. You are amazing. I love what you do. And thank you for letting me borrow your audience to talk about my projects.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.